Hey, there's spoilers ahead, so in case you haven't finished, you probably shouldn't watch unless you don't care about that. Hey everyone, I wanted to try something I've never done before and review a game. This review is also kind of an overview of the game. First I'll be talking about the gameplay and music, and then I'll be talking about the characters and the story. So let's get on with the video. Bayonetta 3 is the sequel a lot of people, myself included, have been waiting for. And in terms of gameplay, it was more than worth the wait. Bayonetta and her new arsenal of moves and weapons are such a joy to play with. There are two new main mechanics: Demon Masquerade, where you shapeshift into a fusion of Bayonetta and an infernal demon attached to your weapon, and Demon Slave, where you summon an entire demon to fight for you while you start dancing in place. New weapons like Ignis Arena Yo-Yo and Simoon offer a light and fast fighting style, while weapons like G-Pillar and Dead End Express are slower but they are heavy hitters. There are 15 weapons in total for Bayonetta to wield, including the handgun, Scarborough Fair, and Love is Blue. Although unfortunately, if you don't have Bayonetta or Bayonetta 2 save data, you can't get Scarborough Fair or Love is Blue respectively. Witch time has been made a bit stricter, and witch time's duration is set, depending on when you activate it. If you activate it too late, witch time will be only up for about a second, but if you dodge right on time or activate Bat Within, the time will be extended to 4 seconds. They have also added a new combo mechanic called Improvisation, which seems to give bonus points based on keeping the combo going if it's about to end. At the end of the combo, instead of halos like previous games, you are granted orbs, the Inferno currency. There are 3 currencies in the game: Halos, which you get from defeating angels, finding chests, or finding them hidden. Halos are used to purchase Rodon's treasures, which include the outfits to buy for this game, and decorations for Viola's room, which is the chapter selection. Orbs are received from the combo scoring system, torture attacks, and as end of verse bonuses. You use them to upgrade your character, the weapons, and demons in the new skill tree mechanic now that techniques are no longer bought in the Gates of Hell. Seeds are the most common currency this time around, which are dropped from homunculi, found in these white lotuses when touched, and are given as bonuses at the end of verses and chapters. You use seeds to buy consumable items such as the lollipops, witch hearts, or moon pearls, and also that item. The homunculi are the new enemies of this game and replace angels and demons as a main enemy. You can still encounter angels and demons from colored light pillars on the ground, which cause them to appear. Or you can find them in the new Niflheim, which replaces the Alfheim and Muspelheim from the first and second games respectively. The Niflheim are a more drastic change since they sometimes give you limitations on your weapons, demon slave summons, and your accessories, which leads to a more challenging experience. I have no problem with this as these realms are always meant to be a challenge. A cool quality of life change is that it tells you even before you enter what the challenge is, the limitations you'll have, and the enemies and how many waves of them there will be. Also, chapters are now divided into sections that can be accessed when you return to it. You can also update the scores for verses and leave without finishing the chapter, making it less of a hassle to upgrade your trophies. You can access the training room in the main menu on the chapter select screen, and it takes place within the Gates of Hell and allows you to change the enemy type or have no enemy. Costumes are also no longer selected before you start a chapter, and can be changed whenever within the chapter in the submenu. Joining us this time around is Viola, who plays differently than Bayonetta. Admittedly, it took some time to get used to her because dodging no longer gives you witch time, and instead you have to parry with her katana, Mobdachi, at the right moment. Viola summons the new infernal demon Cheshire from Mobdachi by throwing it at the ground, and Cheshire comes out of the stuffed cat doll on the hilt. Unlike Bayonetta, who normally has to stay dancing while she summons an infernal demon, Viola is able to attack alongside Cheshire using punches, kicks, and her magic darts named the Bull Kiss, which she uses instead of a gun. With the right skill unlocked, you can charge them to shoot in a V formation. Otherwise, throwing them without charging will have them fly out in the shape of a pentagram, which resembles how Bayonetta, Jean, and Rosa in the past games spell their initial and a shape when shooting their guns. There are also side chapters where you play as Jean in a spy-inspired segment where it reminds me of an arcade cabinet, so much so after beating her chapters you can play a game within a game version of it in the Gates of Hell. Jean is trying to sneak around the facility so you can stealth take down enemies and collect weapons to upgrade all for one. The upgrades in order appear to be Garnet Roses from the first Bayonetta, Samsa from Bayonetta 2, and Colonel Slade from the first Bayonetta. Within the chapter you can also transform into the powerful QDJ. These levels are a fun distraction from the gameplay of the main story, but I do still prefer the main chapter gameplay. On that note, during some boss battles, Bayonetta will activate a mechanic known as the Deadly Sin Ritual, where Bayonetta will pull out her heart and bleed to release the inhibited power of the infernal demon of her choosing. The gameplay for these moments are much different, but the absolute spectacle of all of it makes me enjoy it. I suppose if you weren't a fan of the Route 666 motorcycle segment in the first Bayonetta, or the Jet Fighter Assault segment in Bayonetta 2 and others like that, you probably wouldn't like them, but I thought they were great, with my absolute favorites being Queen Butterfly and Balls of Bulls sections. They were fun and visually stunning. Demon-wise, we get a few new demons. Cheshire, who is Viola's partner, Wartrain Gohan, who we meet in China, contracted to Bayonetta Beta 2, Kraken, who we meet in the beginning of the game as a boss in the game's prologue, and my personal favorite of the new demons, the Umbra Clock Tower, who we meet contracted to Rosa Beta 4. I've mentioned Demon Slave and Demon Masquerade before, but to go a bit more into them, it is such a fun way to incorporate more of Bayonetta's magic in fighting. The weapons I always have on hand are Ignis Erene Yo-Yo and Alruna. They are fast weapons with good range, and that's my favorite kind. The demons I have for Demon Slave are Ball because of her Poison Rain, the Umbra Clock Tower because it can just summon Witch Time, and a demon with essentially infinite strength, Rodan. Things like the Bewitchments and Umbran Tears of Blood return and are changed up. Each chapter has 3 Tears of Blood in the form of different animals, a crow like before, and now a cat and a toad. For cats and crows, you chase them down like before, but toads you find when you hear croaking grow louder as you approach their hiding spot. If you need some tips on how to catch them, I recommend summoning the Umbra Clock Tower to slow them down, so you don't have to chase them. There are 5 Bewitchments per chapter in most cases, and they don't really do anything worthwhile. If you collect all the Umbran Tears of Blood in a chapter, you unlock a side chapter based on the corresponding chapter, and can unlock things like weapons and accessories to hearts and pearls. Onto the music, I had full expectation that the music would be great, and it did not disappoint. Al Fin and Moonlight Serenade are great battle themes that fit their predecessors. Viola's main battle theme, Ghost, spelled G-H-ST, is a personal banger. I love this punk rock music, and I hope they keep making more. Ferdo Rondo made me smile so hard listening and watching Ballsable perform. I always like Ball, especially because in this game the Poison Rain that just decimates a boss's health bar, but seeing her in her prime was one of the best moments of the game. I feel like one of the demons waving their glow sticks. The end credits theme, We Are As One, is sung so beautifully, and it really feels like a goodbye, but I'm a sucker for music like this that tries to touch your heart and make you feel. We also get Moonlight Serenade performed by Frank Sinatra, and that was fun. Let's Dance Boys was alright, but I do kinda prefer the first one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The song is good though. I love how every Bayonetta climax song adds a build-up. Let's hit the climax as 1. Time for the climax as 2. And get to the climax as 3. Now, I do have a few gripes with this game that admittedly are kind of superficial, but I still take some issue with them. For one, Bewitchments are useless and mean nothing, but what makes it worse is that they don't display within the chapter you go into, and you have to memorize what you need to do before you even enter. I guess achievements on other systems aren't really anything but a notification saying you unlocked it, but I still wish there was something. Another thing that bothers me is the lack of costumes compared to the first 2 games, and I don't think set palette swaps are a fair substitution. Viola's costumes aren't even costumes, she just changes shirts. And it's even worse for John. She gets nothing, not even the costumes for the other Johns we see in the game, or not even her looks from the first 2 games, and again, not even the QDJ outfit which is in the game. A genuine frustration is that you can't even play as her in Bayonetta's chapters.
So you get nothing! You lose!
Anyway, this next thing is more of a nitpick. Bayonetta has some movement abilities tied to weapons. For example, Ignis Erene Yo-Yo can climb walls and Aruna creates a platform under you. It's tedious to have to constantly switch weapons to do things you want to do movement-wise, because let's say you have those two equipped, if you like the movement abilities but don't like the weapons, you have to keep switching every time you get into a verse, which breaks the flow of gameplay, and that isn't fun. At minimum, we should have 3 weapons to be able to switch from, as I feel it would alleviate things. Or have a system where you can favorite as many weapons as you want and have those be in the cycle to switch between, instead of having just 2 equipped. Also, Scolopendra wasn't here, and that makes me really upset.
We all make choices, but that was a choice.
Pour one out for Scolopendra, Hecatonchire, Hydra, Diomedes, Carnage, and Madama Kepri. That's all the stuff regarding this section I can think of, so let's move on. Alright, on to the characters that we see. Of course we have Enzo and Rodon, who aren't really important to the story, but it's always great to see them. Rodon is working at a pizza place with a penguin mascot, and that's really cute, and makes sense within Rodon's lore. It's a nice callback to the Wonderful 101, where his profile states that he's absolutely terrified of small birds, but he loves flightless birds, specifically penguins, and he collects penguin plushes, along with any other penguin stuff he can get his hands on. I have noticed that Bayonetta is sassier and less flirty, which is fine. It kind of reminds me of how the change from Bayonetta 1 to 2 was, and I guess it just continues. I really do enjoy her characterization in this game. I think Jennifer Hale does a good job with her voice, and that's really all I have to say about that. Bayonetta's Bayonetta. We are introduced to Viola pretty quickly, who I like a lot. I enjoy her punk aesthetic and her attitude. Viola's a bit clumsy, but she is a determined witch who I think makes a great addition to the cast. Luca is also back, and he's pretty much the same, but he has a more central role to the story, to what I unfortunately believe is its detriment. All the Bayonettas have cool personalities that make them distinct, yet make them feel like Bayonetta. I like that we got to see different versions of Bayonetta's relationships with people from her life, like Jean in Egypt and Rosa in France. The best alternate Bayonetta is Egypt Bayonetta, and I won't be taking arguments on that. Something I've said before is confirmed by the Book of Infernal Demons, where it says Bayonetta and Madama Butterfly, and possibly John and Madama Styx, have a relationship beyond the contract, which feels nice. Also, it clears up that to summon a demon, a witch must contract that specific demon to summon. Meaning, Bayonetta has contracted all the demons she summons in every game. That also means that a witch soul doesn't go to the contracted demon either, and it does simply just go to Inferno for whoever to find. I don't remember where I got the idea that a witch soul goes to a specific demon in the first place, but that's just how it is. That's about it for characters, so on to the critiques, which is basically the story section. First and foremost, this game made Bayonetta and Jean more underpowered compared to before at the end of the game, especially Jean, who just dies being stabbed in the back. Bayonetta survived being impaled by a giant claw, but I guess that's not as bad. Let me remind you that canonically, Bayonetta and Jean have exceptionally fast reaction time, and have dodged things quicker before. If you remember in Bayonetta 2, Baldur stopped time, grabs Bayonetta's bullets, puts them behind her, and she dodges that. This argument goes for all the Bayonettas actually. Why did they make them all so weak, or at the very least took away their enhanced perception? Now, Singularity explains that he is able to essentially alter reality, so I do believe he can kill Jean and all the others for that matter, but by stabbing in the back like that? No. I think Jean is much stronger and more perceptive than to be stabbed like that. At least kill her in a way with more dignity than being stabbed. Moving on, now I'm going to clear my biases right now with all of you. I do not feel like Bayonetta and Luca make a good couple. I actually think it's very problematic either way. Bayonetta knew Luca when he was a kid, and if you want to argue that she didn't really know him, then he knew Cereza as a little girl, which is confirmed by Bayonetta 1 when she does the...
You didn't cry while I was gone, did you?
Oops! Their relationship doesn't make sense after playing all the games in a row. I genuinely think John would be a better relationship choice for Cereza, and would be appropriate and make sense. If not John, then no one. I feel like Bayonetta makes sense as someone not held back in a relationship, but if she's gonna be with one, it should be with someone who has been depicted as a partner to her for years, not someone who has vilified her for his entire life only until recently. Viola doesn't need to be biologically related to an Umbra Witch to be one, so she doesn't need to be the love child of Bayonetta and Luca. The story makes no effort to show how Bayonetta and Luca end up together in the other universe, or how they get along well enough to want to be together in this one. We're just supposed to accept that this is how it's meant to be. Also, to anyone who uses the Arc Adam and Arc Eve thing as an excuse for Bayonetta and Luca, you forget that John was the Arc Eve of the Egypt universe, so who's to say that Luca isn't always the Arc Adam in other universes? Another problem I have is with Viola. I want to preface this again by saying I love her. I think she's fun and her attitude and style is something I appreciate, but they did not handle the passing of her mom's name onto her well. I'm not against retiring Cereza as Bayonetta entirely, but the way they did it is so bad. Viola is never really shown connecting to Luca or Cereza individually as parents. We don't even see her real parents connect with her except the few seconds in the opening. The Bayonetta from the intro, by the way, is not the Bayonetta from Bayonetta 1. We don't know anything about her aside from her being Viola's mother, and a brief description within the character archives. Can someone explain to me why Viola couldn't just say she's their daughter in a different reality? It didn't make much sense, and I don't remember Sigurd telling her, hey, don't let anyone know who you are. The game is not subtle about this fact anyway, so I don't know why it's meant to be a twist. Rounding back to Sigurd, we know almost nothing about him aside his motives. Where did he come from? Some people are going to say Bayonetta as a series isn't about the story, and that is true. However, the last two stories weren't bad, at least not at this scale. And if you're going to put effort into making an ongoing story that spans different titles, you should make it sensible. Multiverse and time travel are very hard plot devices to make work, and it is very easy to mess up. It manages to disappoint when I wasn't expecting much, and I will admit that I'm probably just painting it to be much worse than it is because it isn't what I wanted. I'll just blame it on the multiverse and say Bayonetta 2 and John 2 are happy together.
Nice.
Well, thanks for watching my review. Did I miss something? What do you all think of the story? What weapons do you like to use? What's your favorite demon slave? I am very interested in hearing other people's perspective and preferences. My final thoughts on this game is that it's the best Bayonetta game in terms of its gameplay, and worse in terms of its story, but honestly, when you're replaying this game for higher rankings, most people usually skip the cutscenes anyway. So overall, do I think it's better than Bayonetta 1 or Bayonetta 2 as a whole? Well, I think it is. Gameplay carries so much for me for this series. There's so many new weapons and so many new ways to play, I'd be lying if I said I didn't appreciate all the work they put into this. It's a fantastic game, and it's easy to criticize this game's story, but it's easier to just have fun, and that's what I plan to do for a long time until the next one comes out. I'll see y'all next time with my regular style of content. Bye.